Hello and welcome to another current conversation video. I am your host, Dan, and with me today I have Alex.
Hello!
Today we are going to be discussing the Game Awards nominations and nominees and stuff. So if you're watching this after that, the Game Awards 2020 has already been and gone and done, then this video is kind of irrelevant, but basically we're going to be talking about the nominations and what we think should win and what we think will win. I'm not going to do every category, I should say, because some we don't really care about, like the esports section or just the sports category in general. And then basically we're going to be finishing off with the Game of the Year as the last one.
Sounds good.
So we'll just go straight on with the first category we've got here, which is Best Game Direction. The nominations are Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, and The Last of Us Part 2. Alex,
yes?
What is your pick for Best Game Direction?
It's a tricky one, Will, like some of the nominees, because they're all really fascinating in their own way, unique. But if I had to pick maybe two contenders, the one I've played is The Last of Us Part 2, which I think could have a good shot winning in the game direction. Whereas I also think Half-Life Alyx has a chance because of its VR usage and maybe some of its design. I've not played it, but I have a feeling it could get it.
Yeah, for me, I actually think Hades is going to get it just because of... I've never played Hades. I feel like I should, but that genre, we'll probably talk more about Hades later on as well, but that genre, that roguelike style game doesn't do anything for me. Can't stand those types of games. But Hades, from what I can gather, everyone who's played that game loves it, and that game has got so much voice work and dialogue and branching paths and stuff, and I feel like the direction of that game has been like, everyone loves the direction of that game. I think that Hades is going to win. It's not my pick, because again, I've not played it. My pick actually is Ghost of Tsushima. I think the direction of that game, I've never lived in feudal Japan, but I imagine that that is probably the most accurate depiction of anything Japanese that isn't done by a Japanese studio. The direction of that game is basically phenomenal. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I also think Ghost of Tsushima has a great shot of winning this. But there's a lot of it jam-packed into this one world. You know, like when you look at the blossoms or the autumn leaves, there's so much diversity in the set pieces. So, I mean, I don't know why I didn't mention it before, like initially, but I do definitely think it's a toss-up between those few that could win it.
Gonna force you to go for a pick. What do you think is going to win?
You know what? The more I think about it, I think it could be Ghost of Tsushima.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Hades. You reckon Ghost of Tsushima? I reckon Hades. Okay, we'll move on to the next category, which is Best Narrative. First off, we've got 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and Last of Us Part 2. I've not played or don't even really know anything about 13 Sentinels, so I have no idea on that front. For me, my pick, as well as what I think is going to win, is Last of Us Part 2, which is maybe controversial to a bunch of people, but I think that the narrative is the best for The Last of Us Part 2. I'm not saying that's the best part of that game, but I think that game will win it. What do you think?
I was literally about to say the same thing. I think this will go to Last of Us Part 2. Despite all the hate to the story, which I thought was ridiculous in the first place.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think like Final Fantasy VII Remake was definitely competent and good in its narrative. It got a bit Kingdom Heartsy towards the end, and also it's not even a finished story when you think about it.
Yeah, true.
Ghost of Tsushima took a while for me to get pulled in until the third act, which I thought was an absolutely amazing, final tension to the story. And Hades I've not played, but I'm sure it has something good in its narrative. But Last of Us Part 2, consistently the entire game I was hooked. So, and for all the right reasons, in my opinion. So Last of Us Part 2, I think, should get this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've not finished Final Fantasy VII Remake or Ghost of Tsushima even, and I've not played the other two, so I'll go with that as well. So next category, we've got Best Art Direction, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Last of Us Part 2, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. So like a lot of repetitive in terms of games and that, but I guess we've got a new one here in Ori. But Alex, what's your prediction?
Like you say, because it's almost a similar nominees, it's like a broken record. It's like, anyways, Art Direction. I think Ghost of Tsushima has a good shot at this, but I also think Ori and the Will of Wisps, if we go by art alone, it definitely looks one of the nicest of the list. Not just in a technical aspect, but also just, like when you first see it, it's Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
It has a specific style that even lots of other indies are copying. I've seen come to Switch and it's like, oh, that's very Ori looking. I wouldn't say iconic, maybe that's a bit much, but there's definitely like everyone recognizes that art style. I think that Ori's going to win, because looking at the other categories, I don't see where Ori could win anything, and I feel like they want to give Ori a win somewhere. You could say that same about Ghost of Tsushima. Like for me, Ghost is definitely the pick. That's my pick for what I think should win Best Art Direction, but I think Ori will win.
I'm the same. I think it'll be Ori and the Will of the Wisps that'll win the best art direction of the 5.
Okay, we'll move on to best score and music. We've got Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, Ori, and The Last of Us Part 2. I reckon that Doom Eternal will win it, and I think that it should win it as well. I really like Doom Eternal, but its music especially is just phenomenal. That whole soundtrack is brilliant. I mean, Doom 2016 was also really good, but I don't see it winning anything else. This is the only one I think it's got a shot in winning.
The only 2 games I played on this list is, well, once again, The Last of Us Part 2 and Final Fantasy VII Remake. I barely know much of Doom Eternal and Hades or Ori to really comment. For the ones I have played, though, I would honestly say Final Fantasy VII Remake. I want that to be the winner because, all the remixes for the original game are intact and perfected, and each battle theme and each cue of the music was all fantastic. And that's not to say The Last of Us 2 had nothing of merit. It's more, the background ambience or song numbers, especially the musical numbers. When with Ellie and the guitar, and it's got some of the most memorable scenes of the story. I'm just going by in terms of what would I listen to, for the most kick-ass tune, and it's definitely Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Fair enough. Speaking of that Last of Us Part 2, we'll go on to the next category, which is the best audio design, and I think that Last of Us Part 2 is in there, as well as Doom Eternal, Half-Life Alyx, Ghost of Tsushima, and Resident Evil 3. I think that Last of Us Part 2 wins this category because of I don't know if you play with headphones. I did. I've played most games with headphones these days anyway, and I feel like that this game, the sound design is incredible with the clickers, and like you said, the music itself isn't necessarily the most memorable of the game. The Last of Us tune from the first game is quite iconic, I guess, but yeah, the sound design in this game is incredible, and I think for me this should win it and probably will win it.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I don't mean to repeat myself, but because I've only played 2 of these games on the list, it's definitely Last of Us Part 2 that should win this, because some of the most memorable story scenes are the moments with Ellie and the guitar. And I remember when you first started in the game, when you played as Joel, when you held the guitar and you used the PlayStation 4's touchpad to swipe on it to simulate a guitar string, and lack of a better word, it feels like magic. The sound design of each note, each string, and it's not even talking about, the clickers, as you mentioned, the enemy sayings. It must have been insane to get it all together.
Yeah, agreed. And we'll move on to best performance. I'm going to mess up a couple of these names, so I really apologise in advance. We've got Ashley Johnson as Ellie, Laura Bailey as Abby, Logan Cunningham as Hades, and these ones are going to mess up here, Daisuke Tsuji as Jin Sakai, and Naji Jita as Miles Morales. I apologise. But Alex, who do you think deserves best performance, and who do you think is going to win?
Okay, at the time we're recording this, the PlayStation 5 is coming out tomorrow. I have it pre-ordered, and I've got Miles Morales to play tomorrow. So I have not heard Miles Morales' performance fully in, just if we're ignoring that, if I had to pick between Ashley Johnson, Laura Bailey, and Daisuke Tsuji, ooh, this is tricky because, I absolutely loved, The Last of Us 2's voice acting. I personally think it could go to Laura Bailey. I think, but at the same time, Ashley Johnson did a stellar performance as Ellie, just like in the first game, and captured all the emotion beats well. So I think either of those two would win it, but if I had to pick one, I would want it to go to Laura Bailey as Abby.
I agree with everything you just said, except for your pick. I think that, totally echo exactly what you said, but I think Ashley Johnson for me just pips Laura Bailey. Again, I think either of these two are going to win it. I personally pick Ashley Johnson over Laura Bailey purely because I feel like there was more raw emotion with Ellie. I think actually Laura Bailey's going to win it though because of Abby being this phenomenal new character, whereas before we already knew, we knew Ellie from the first game and Ashley Johnson's performance there. But for me, I think that raw emotion that Ashley Johnson portrays with Ellie, no spoilers here, I will say that, but the portrayal that she does at the beginning of the game with Ellie and even towards the end of the game goes through so many different emotions, whereas I feel like Abby, not going to say she's one note, definitely not. There's more of an anger, I don't know, there's more of a range, I guess, with Ashley Johnson is all I'm saying.
Completely understand. I think I could go to either of them, but if I had to pick one, I definitely think Laura Bailey will get this.
And that's no disrespect, I think, to Jin Sakai's voice actor. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name, but I just think that as much as I love Ghost, I just think that character is just kind of, he's just a video game protagonist. He's kind of, whatever.
I didn't feel much for Daisuke, honestly, but yeah.
So next we got Games for Impact. We've got If Found, Kentucky Route Zero, Spiritfarer, Tell Me Why, and Through the Darkest of Times. I've only played 2 of these games, which is Tell Me Why and Spiritfarer. I've not played enough of Spiritfarer to really say if I think it's my pick. I think it's going to win though, just because loads of people have spoken about that game. It's a game that deals with death, but in a kind of not jovial way, but it's not as dark as a game that's built around you gathering spirits that are trying to go to the afterlife. I think that that's more of a game for impact. I think Tell Me Why, the subject matter is very important, but I think that as a game, I don't think was that great. I don't know how you feel, Alex, about these games.
Now, this is the first category where I've played none of these games. So
Okay.
I think I was interested to play Spiritfarer as it was on Game Pass. And I know you weren't really fond of Tell Me Why. I think out of the 5, this is just based on how, which looks the most meaningful. I guess it'd go to Spiritfarer.
We'll move on to best ongoing games. We've got Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, No Man's Sky. I don't know if you have much to say about this category, Alex.
Again, I just don't have much to say because I've not played any of these ones. I've heard of them, I'm not the kind to, go into Battle Royale surface games and stuff, so I'm sure you have something to say.
Yeah, I played quite a bit of Call of Duty Warzone early this year, and I really enjoyed it. I've not really played much in the last few months, though. It's my pick, and I think it's the one that will win. Call of Duty Warzone is still talked about a lot. I feel like it's either going to be that or No Man's Sky, because No Man's Sky has done so many good updates. I think it's a toss-up between either Call of Duty or No Man's Sky. I'm going to go with Call of Duty Warzone. So we'll move on to Best Indie. We've got Carry On, Fall Guys, Hades, Spelunky 2, and Spiritfarer. Alex, what's yours?
Well, okay, out of these 5 games, by far the most time I put into any of these was Fall Guys. I mean, keep in mind that I am also the kind of person who likes to get all the collectibles, likes to get all the trophies in a game, so I spent so many hours, getting all the wins and crowns in Fall Guys. But if it comes to the best one, I think, again, this could go to Spiritfarer, just for how well put together it is. Which Fall Guys is a really fun game, but, for some it was just a one and done sort of thing where, once you played it and you got your curiosity, you just didn't go back to it, unlike me.
Yeah.
So, even though I played Fall Guys a lot, I think this would go to Spiritfarer.
Interesting pick. I think that it's between either Fall Guys or Hades. I think that Hades is going to win in a few other categories, so I think this is where Fall Guys could win. I still think that they're going to give it to Hades, though. My prediction is Hades, but my pick for what I think is my favourite, actually, at this list is Carry On. I don't know if you know much about Carry On, but it's a fantastic little indie game where you play as the monster and destroying people in this pixel art looking game. It's really, really awesome. It's on Game Pass. More people should play it if you haven't.
I think Hades, out of all of them, has the best chance of winning because, it is nominated for Game of the Year, but we'll get to that later.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Hades is nominated for Game of the Year, so I feel like almost by default this should surely win this category.
I think I'll put my money on Hades for this one.
Okay, so best mobile game is up next. We got Among Us, Call of Duty Mobile, Genshin Impact, Legends of Runeterra, and Pokemon Cafe. I've only played, and I've barely played it. That's Genshin Impact. I played for a little bit. I think by far it's going to be Among Us, like that game everyone talks about. It has to be Among Us, in my opinion. About you, Alex?
I agree. Without a doubt, I think Among Us will win this because I know Among Us has been out for 2 years now.
Yeah, which is confusing why it's on this list, to be honest. I'm shocked, really.
Well, for lack of a better word, the fad game, where everyone's talking about it, everyone's got to play it, Fall Guys was that, and I think Among Us is also one of the most talked about games on my social media, because every now and then, I hear an Among Us meme, or just someone's playthrough of it, or a stream of it, and so on.
So next up, we've got Best VR/AR Game. We've got Dreams, Half-Life Alyx, Marvel's Iron Man VR, Star Wars Squadrons, and The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. I have only played Iron Man, Star Wars, and Walking Dead, but I think Half-Life Alyx has to win here. There's no doubt. I'm surprised this wasn't in. We'll get to the Game of the Year awards, but this wasn't nominated for Game of the Year. I've briefly played Half-Life Alyx. Actually, I'm just now thinking about it around a friend's, but not enough to have a full opinion on the game. But this, to me, has to win this category, bar none. There's no way this doesn't win. Even though, for me personally, I love The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. It's probably my favourite VR game from this year, although Star Wars Squadrons is a close second. Half-Life Alyx is a surefire win.
Everything you just said is exactly the same, so I don't have much to add. Half-Life Alyx is not only the most critically acclaimed, but I see maybe a few trailers or a little bit of gameplay on YouTube, because I don't have a PC VR, so there's no way I could have played it. From what I saw, it's got to be the most best put together VR game of the bunch.
Next up, we've got Best Action, Doom Eternal, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, Neo 2, Streets of Rage 4. We've actually both played Streets of Rage 4 online together, which was a fun co-op game to play. I don't think this is going to win, and I don't think it should win. I think that Doom Eternal should and maybe will win. If not, Hades might do, but I think Doom Eternal for me is the pick for this.
Yeah. Okay, this could be me thinking that they want to give maybe some of the awards more variety. Where we don't want one game to win all the awards. So maybe if Hades wins things like the best indie, maybe Doom could win the best action. So I think it'll go to Doom Eternal.
Fair enough. Moving on to Best Action Adventure. Adventure, we've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, The Last of Us Part 2. Very strange how this category is, I think, the only one other than the main Game of the Year awards that has 6 nominations, and I think it's purely because they were like, oh, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, that came out last year, but it missed the boat from our last year's awards, so we got to put it in this one. And it's like almost like a token, like, oh, we'll just put it in this one, but it's not going to win.
So Cyberpunk 2077, if it's out in December, that'll be for 2021's Game of the Year awards.
Correct. So I think for me, my favourite and the one that's going to win is Ghost of Tsushima. I think it's the best action-adventure game on this list, at least from an action-adventure point of view. It's not the best game. For me, Last of Us Part 2 I prefer, but I think Ghost is going to win it and should win it.
Yeah, again, Ghost of Tsushima, I'll put my money on this winning. Miles Morales could come close, and so could
You're that confident, are you, in Ghost winning this? Because I'm not. I think it's a toss-up between Last of Us and Ghost.
But again, it's one of those awards where you have 4 categories and you just think any one of those could get this.
True.
In some capacity. It could just be Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us Part 2s, but I'm going to say Ghost of Tsushima for action-adventure.
Okay, so next up we got Best Role-Playing. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Genshin Impact, Persona 5 Royale, Wasteland 3, Yakuza Like a Dragon. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake gets this. It's not going to win Game of the Year, I don't think, so this is the category it wins.
Okay, this is the one that makes me, well, I don't know how to put this, but this one kind of makes me...
Deciding between your 2 favourite kids is what I'm hearing.
Sort of. It's basically, this is the category I have to be the most realistic on, because if this was up to me, I would have given as Persona 5 Royale without a shred of a doubt. Final Fantasy VII Remake definitely was a fantastic game, but Persona 5 Royale was just like, the top tier for me. A phenomenal RPG. I haven't played Yakuza, Wasteland, or Genshin Impact, but realistically, I think it will go to Final Fantasy VII because, once again, it is nominated for Game of the Year, so...
Yeah, so by default, it should win this category.
I really want Persona 5 to win this so bad, but I just think realistically this will go to Final Fantasy VII.
Speaking of games that are nominated for Game of the Year, we've got Best Family category.
Something different.
Which has actually got 6 in here right now. So we've got Animal Crossing New Horizons, Crash Bandicoot 4, Fall Guys, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, Minecraft Dungeons, and Paper Mario Origami King. I think this is, again, this is a surefire win. It should be, and it will be Animal Crossing, without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion.
Yep, this is the category I'm the most confident in, for a few reasons. Because 1, Animal Crossing is Game of the Year nominee, so by default it should win. And 2, the year 2020 was a pandemic year, and Animal Crossing came out right when the UK was in a massive lockdown. And when it came out, that was like the big escape. That could spark discussion, and that is seen as important for a lot of people. And it was like the biggest social media game too, around that time. And it's still getting updates to this day. So without a doubt, Animal Crossing will get this. I have played Fall Guys, Mario Kart Live, and Origami King.
Paper Mario Origami King. What a piece of shit video game.
Oh boy, but this will definitely go to Animal Crossing. For sure.
Anyway, I kid. But next up we got is Best Sim Strategy, Crusader Kings 3, Desperados 3, Gears Tactics, Microsoft Flight Simulator, XCOM Chimera Squad. I've only played Gears Tactics of this list, but I think just going by what people have spoke about of these games, Microsoft Flight Simulator for me is going to win this.
It's one of those categories I barely have much to say about, so this category kind of just feels like a picking right out of a hat to see which will win. So I guess if I had to pick maybe just a random brain fart choice, maybe Microsoft Flight Simulator. But I barely know the other ones, so, who knows.
Next up is Best Multiplayer. We've got Animal Crossing New Horizons, Among Us, Call of Duty Warzone, Fall Guys, and Valorant. I think for Best Multiplayer, thinking about not the best game that has multiplayer, the best multiplayer, I think by far this has to be Among Us. We spoke about Among Us already. It was a phenomenon. I just think that Animal Crossing New Horizons, I love that game, but the multiplayer isn't really that great. There's loads of problems with the online, as well as the fact that you have to have, you have one cart per, console and stuff like this, per island, I should say, with all this sort of nonsense. Call of Duty Warzone is just another Call of Duty Battle Royale. Fall Guys, pretty damn good, but as a multiplayer game, it's not, I don't know. When I think of the best multiplayer game of 2020, I immediately think of Among Us, and I've not even played the game.
Yeah, as good as Animal Crossing is, and as Game of the Year nominated as it is, that multiplayer, not only is it more limited, Nintendo's amazing online service, you have constant lag, you have disconnections, it will go to Among Us for sure. I mean, Fall Guys could come close, but Among Us is the most talked about, the most I've seen streamers play it, and this is one of those rare times where I think the Game of the Year nobody won't win that category. It will go to Among Us.
Okay, so best debut game, we got Carry On, Mortal Shell, Raji, then Ancient Epic, Roki, and Phasmophobia. I've only played Carry On, because I mentioned earlier, I think that it should win because it's my favourite on the list. It's the only one I've played. But I think another game that's kind of a bit of phenomenon is Phasmophobia. I don't know if it's really going to win because it's really janky, but like a lot of people talk about it, a lot of people stream it. I think it could win just based on that. I don't know what your opinion is.
I barely heard these 5 games at all, so I guess if I had to pick one, probably because it was nominated for another category, Carry On, and you've played it as well, which you've got a lot of good things to say about. So yeah, I'd probably go with Carry On for this one.
Fair enough. Well, that leads us on to the main category, the Game of the Year of 2020. The nominations are Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing New Horizons, The Last of Us Part 2. Before we go into it though, do you think there's any games that have been snubbed? I'm surprised that Half-Life Alyx, I mentioned that earlier, I'm surprised that game didn't make it on the list. I don't want to say if I'm surprised that Ori didn't make it on there, but I'm kind of gutted it didn't make the list at least. But other than that, I think these are the games I kind of would have thought.
Maybe Among Us, considering how much it was nominated.
I feel like almost because that game didn't come out this year, I feel like it can't. I know it's been nominated for other categories, but I feel like it can't get put in this purely because it didn't actually come out this year.
I'm just like, well, I mean, if it didn't come out this year, why is it in the awards show? So I guess maybe Half-Life Alyx is probably the biggest snub of the bunch, but these 6 picks are absolute legit. I think each one, if any of them won Game of the Year, I wouldn't be mad at all. They would definitely be sound choices.
So what's your pick out of that lot?
Do I have to say because it'll probably spoil maybe one?
Okay, alright, yeah. Do you know what? I think just for the sake of not spoiling our own, we are going to do our like Project Falcon Punch top 5s that we've been doing. This will be the 7th annual top 5 lists that we do. So we're going to be doing that later in the year and early next year. We won't spoil what our picks are, so we'll just talk about what we think is the one's going to win on this category. So Alex, what do you think is going to be the winner?
I have a gut feeling it will either be Ghost of Tsushima or The Last of Us 2.
Interesting, because for me it's between 3 games: Hades, Animal Crossing and Last of Us. The reason why I say that, Hades, because I feel like as an indie game, it's like everyone who's played it talks about it and loves it. It's a fantastic, well-rounded game that everyone thinks is phenomenal. Has had a really interesting development as well, been really well documented. Animal Crossing New Horizons for me is the game of 2020. It's the game like you mentioned earlier that when lockdown happened, everyone was stuck at home and what can you do? Let's get Animal Crossing and go to this lovely tropical island where I can visit my friends in this video game instead. When I think of 2020 video games, Animal Crossing comes into my mind the most. However, I do think The Last of Us Part 2 from a technical perspective, it is just phenomenal. It's such an achievement in modern game design as well as on a visual front. Everything about this game is phenomenal. Whether or not you like the game or not, I'm sure that me even just saying that is going to rile some people up, and I don't even mean that. I just think that this is such a fantastic game of 2020. So for different reasons, it's between one of those 3. I think just purely based on a raw technical prowess, I think Last of Us Part 2 is going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Animal Crossing and Hades win instead, one of those 2 as well, because I just think it's such a close call between those 3. I don't think Ghosts will, but I could be wrong. I don't think Doom has any chance really, because it's I'm surprised they even made this list, honestly, because it didn't make many other categories. Doom Eternal was a great game, but didn't love it as much as I was hoping to. I'm not really a Final Fantasy guy, so I can't really comment too much on the 7 remake, but yeah, I think it's between those 3. So I'm still gonna give my nod is gonna be to Last of Us Part 2.
For going by game achievement in design and storytelling, it would go to Last of Us Part 2. That's what I think would win the Game of the Year.
Fair enough. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there then. Thank you everyone for watching. I guess, what do you think is going to win Game of the Year as well as the other categories, or what do you think should win? Let us know in the comments down below. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier in the video, we are going to be doing the 7th annual PFP Game of the Year Awards, not really Game of the Year, the top 5s, the Game of the Year top 5s that we always do. This will be probably the first couple will go up in late December, then the rest will go hopefully out throughout January, but as is usually the thing, they sometimes bleed over into February and March. Hopefully try and get them out as quick as you can, as always. But also maybe before then, hopefully we're going to be finally doing Rare Replay Part 3, because that script is almost written, and Alex is, once he's got his PS5, is going to hopefully start work editing that. So good luck with that, Alex.
Of course. I'll have time with my PS5. At the time of recording, it's the night before the PS5's out in the UK, so it's kind of like Christmas, in a sense.
Yeah.
The new console, the next generation's out tomorrow. Exciting times to wait.
Definitely. Hope you enjoy your PS5. So yeah, look forward to those videos, and thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Alright, see you later.